voice from the past. This game was the second game of the official First World Chess Championship. It was played between Dr. Zukertort and Mr. Steinitz. The game was played on January 13th, 1886. On the next day, New York Daily published the below article.
The second game of chess in the series for the championship of the world between Messrs. Steinitz and Zukertort was played yesterday at number 85th Avenue. Steinitz is the first within the sanctum where the battle of brains is to be fought. He shakes hands cordially with Mr. Mula Dr. Zukertort's umpire, and then greets cordially his own umpire, Mr. Fries, diminutive in everything except his head. Mr. Steinitz's full, chubby face, meanwhile, beams effusively on everybody. His brow is as smooth as that of a child. The fierce mental struggles over the chessboard have left no furrows there. Dr. Zukertort arrives a few minutes later with fur cap and long cape trailing down to his heels. As he throws open his cape with a quick gesture and casts a searching glance at the spectators, he suggests Irving's first entrance in The Bells with his "I am here." Steinitz ambles up to him. He can hardly be said to walk, and the two men exchange greetings, giving the spectators at the same time a good opportunity to observe the striking contrast between their expressions. Steinitz looking as placid as a mill pond, and Dr. Zukertort restless and nervous with deep lines engraved on his sharp-cut features. Then the two men take seats with the historic chessboard between them, and doubtless each experiences something of the stern joy which warriors feel. In foemen worthy of their steel, they are to engage in a battle of intellect against intellect, where the man who can see furthest and think deepest must win. A hush falls on the spectators. They are all expectancy. There are twice as many spectators as when the first game was played. They keep their overcoats and hats on and shiver until, by reason of keeping the windows all sealed and doors closed and much consumption of oxygen by smoking, and otherwise the room gets warm, but it is not warmth conducive to mental vigor. Mr. Green reserves the front row of seats, some 40 in number, for the ladies who don't come, and the chairs stand vacant half the day until the order is rescinded. But the hall gets well filled before the afternoon closes, and measured by the ordinary standard, the aggregate of brains would amount to something tremendous. Steinitz has the first move and makes it 5 minutes after 2 o'clock. White pawn to king's fourth, calls Mr. Patterson. Before the move can be made on the big board, where all can see it, comes the reply, black pawn to king's fourth. Then, after an interval of a few seconds, only Steinitz moves again. Knight to king's bishop's third, he is selected for his opening the Scotch Gambit, which Paul Murphy always regarded as a bid for draw. Old chess players know that the contest is likely to prove long and stubborn, and settle down in their seats to enjoy it. Knight to queen's bishop's third is Zukertort's prompt reply. The moves are now made as quickly as exchanges between pugilists in what is technically called a rattling mill. Steinitz advances pawn to queen's fourth. Pawn takes pawn, is the quick reply shouted to the man at the buy-board. This is the first blood in the third move. In Monday's game, 15 moves were made before a man succumbed. Steinitz's knight takes the black pawn. Zukertort moves his knight to king's bishop's third. Now the battle is fairly underway. The moves have all been made like lightning thus far, and it is time to do some thinking. Steinitz sips some brandy and water, puts his hands in his trousers pockets to keep them warm, and settles down to mark out some plan of the campaign. The spectators study the big chessboard and their pocket chessbooks and wonder what it will turn out to be. The placid, chubby little man with his hands in his pockets is an object of intense interest to them. Though outwardly so quiet, they know that he is dipping into the future as far as man can see in a game of chess, and that if his brain could be photographed, it would be found to be tiled thick with chess squares and all manner of combinations. The man apparently least interested in him is Dr. Zukertort. He rises from his seat, paces the room abstractedly, and then crosses over to the umpires to look at portraits of himself and Steinitz in an illustrated journal which they have. When Steinitz has at last matured his plans and made his move, he gets up and extends his dumpling-like little hands over the flames. The most comfortable men in the place are the two umpires. They are kept near the first. Miss Steinitz shivers near the door. She has added Dr. Zukertort's photograph to her collection. It is a prolific view in which he shows to best advantage, and she sells many of them. Knights are exchanged in the next move. In the next move, it is Dr. Zukertort's turn to put on his thinking cap. He does it after a nervous fashion far different from the imperturbably style which characterizes his opponent. He taps the floor, strokes his beard, leans first on one arm and then on the other, passes his hand over his brow, and in various ways shows that he is tackling a hard problem. But he does it successfully, as the sequel proves. The slaughter is thick. Pawns are again exchanged in the eighth move. Both men castle in the next move, and with their kings firmly entrenched, renew the fight. Then there is enacted a scene which for a chess player has all the charms of a mimic battle. Dr. Zukertort takes the aggressive. He throws his pawns out in skirmish line, unmasks his battery of bishops, and concentrates their fire on his opponent's right-hand corner, where the king is in hiding. His queen is brought boldly forward to find a vulnerable point in that king's defenses. But it is not to be found this time. Steinitz skillfully parries every attack, turns the tide of war, and Dr. Zukertort's line of attack stubbornly retires. This is the situation at 6 o'clock when an adjournment is taken. Steinitz passes through the hall, shakes hands with some friends, and his look seems to say plainly that he is thoroughly satisfied with the state of affairs. The fight is renewed at 8 o'clock. The board has become well thinned. The purport of every move is readily seen. For 2 hours more, these masters of the game arrange the remnants of their forces in such combinations as fill with delight the admiring chess players. Dr. Zukertort again rallies to the attack. The tide of battle seems first to lean one way, then the other. The game is full of surprises, but at last the black men can no longer be beaten back. In vain, Steinitz struggles to extricate himself, but he looks as imperturbably, as amiable as ever. A few minutes before 10 o'clock, the announcement was made. White resigns. Hand clapping resounds through the hall, whereat Dr. Zukertort rises and lifts his right hand deprecatingly. Then the doors of the sanctum are closed and the rival champions discuss the might have been. Among those present yesterday were Mr. Kaiser of Philadelphia, Mr. Arnold of Baltimore, Charles L. Edwards of New Orleans, Max Judd of St. Louis, the champion of the West, and C.M. Knox. The next game will be played at number 80 Fifth Avenue on Friday, beginning at 2 o'clock. The score now stands Steinitz 1, Zukertort 1.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to subscribe and hit the like button. This will encourage me to proceed with creating the other videos for the rest of the tournament's matches. Thanks for watching.